Well, thank you, Mark. My name is Mark Vina. I'm the CEO and founder of SmartTech Research. Cover a variety of different topics in the tech space, from silicon to IoT to AI, which I'm sure AI is going to come up during our discussion, B2B, B2C, and I'm thrilled to be able to spend some time with you with this illustrious panel to talk to you about the topic that Mark just outlined. I'm here with three great panelists that will add a lot of value, a lot of color to this particular topic. But let me start with Fara Alexander. She's the Director of Brand Management at ReturnPro. I'll let her spend a minute or so talking about her role.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Fara Alexander from ReturnPro. We're basically one of the only end-to-end return management players. So we have SaaS, supply chain, and re-commerce solutions to help drive efficiencies and create profitability within the return space.
And the next person we have is Vincent Pusateri. Did I pronounce it properly, Vincent?
We went with a hand.
He paid me to do the hand motion. He's the Senior Director of Business Development, and I love the name, Essilux.
There you go.
And by the way, chances are you want to buy something or you have bought something from one of the brands that Vincent works with, and I'll let him talk a little bit about what he does.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Mark. And good afternoon. So I work for Essilux. You probably know our brands, Oakley, Ray-Ban, Costa. We also carry 22 licensed brands, which now, so we're in the eyewear industry as well as the apparel industry. And so I lead our North America returns, warranty, and repair services, as well as integration as it relates to returns, warranty, and repairs. I've been with the organization 8 years now. Prior to that, I spent 16 years with a leading transportation provider on the supply chain solution side that spent many roles in corporate strategy, operations management, and network and engineering as well. So thanks again.
Thanks, Vincent. And our last panelist is David Kozar, who is the Director of Operations at another fine company, Vitamix, and chances are some of you have a Vitamix blender in your home. But David, take it away.
Yeah, hi, I'm David Kozar, Director of Operations. I'm responsible for all of the logistics, distribution, and production. Vitamix is a 105-year-old company, US-based manufacturer, and we currently are refurbing all of our product in-house.
Thank you, David. So let me just start off this way. It's such a fascinating topic to talk about, the returns issue. From a consumer standpoint, it actually is a very, very important topic, but from a business and operations and from a financial standpoint, obviously, it's an incredibly important topic. And I was watching the other night an episode of Mad Men. How many have you watched the show Mad Men? Great show. And there's a great sequence in one of the early episodes where someone's trying to return I think it's a wedding gift at a store that's probably Macy's in New York. And it's almost like a 15-minute dialogue where they're trying to convince the manager to take it back. And I think from the early 1960s to where we are today, the entire returns industry in the category has changed so dramatically in 30 or 40 years. So what I'd like to ask each of the speakers, let me start with Fara. In your view, how has the world changed and it's very broad, from the 1960s to where we are today from the returns area?
Absolutely. Well, I feel like the issue of why it was so challenging for them to make that return in 1960 is because the industry didn't exist.
Yes.
It's still a really nascent industry, and I feel like in many ways we're like just on the cusp of really, innovating and bringing returns to the forefront of the discussion within retail. I think if you look back even a decade ago, the returns industry was just around $400 million and maybe 8% of all retail sales. And just last year, the NRF reported $890 billion and almost 17% of all sales. So the industry itself has doubled in size just in the past 10 years. And forward looking, it's only going to continue to grow as e-commerce becomes, a larger percentage of total retail sales.
No, that's great. And obviously customer expectations have changed dramatically since the early 1960s, to build loyalty and build that relationship with a customer that you want to, you have to have really good return policies, and sometimes really good return policies can have a direct impact, frankly, on the bottom line. So I want to start with Vince, because Vince, you're in the luxury item category. You're not spending, you're not selling $25, MSP type of products. When you look at things where you're selling, let's say, a $300 high-end pair of sunglasses, and someone wants to return a fake item that might be just worth $10, how do you outsmart the scammers? I mean,
Yeah.
from your perspective.
That's a great call, and I'd say the scammers or fraudsters are growing in a lot of different areas, but we'll start with the product. We have a pretty robust training program. We have quality inspectors that go through, making sure we have the right quality, right weight, right logos, etc., on all the returns. And so, and when we find, let's say, fraudsters that send something in, we have a closed loop system where we provide that feedback back within our security organization, so to kind of close those gaps. But the other thing on top of product that we see as it relates to fraud, and I think maybe some of us have seen this in the industry, it's also on the return packages coming back. So we had instances where there was, let's say, return packages coming back with, let's say, different barcodes. So although it should have came back to us on the shipping label from an address perspective, let's say it could be rerouted to different places. So that's another area that we, the intelligence of what we see as far as people or bad actors wanting to do, let's say, not the right thing. So it's definitely an area heightened awareness for us, and something we've got to keep an eye on.
And just on that area, when we're talking about scammers, we're not talking about a couple of kids who are operating out of a basement. I mean, it's really a professional approach, in terms of the way, companies, not companies, but individuals can scam certain companies. These are not supposed to be regarded as just kind of pranks. I mean, this stuff is done in an organized, structured way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very, have the ability to do a lot of things in heavy volume scenarios.
Now, David, the challenge you have in your product category is that, you sell these beautifully, and I know there are people who swear by them. If you're a professional cook, if you want to use your company's devices in a robust professional setting, there are issues when those products get returned back to you. There's sanitary issues. There could be missing components because it's a relatively, I won't say it's complex, but there's a lot of attachments and peripherals that you sell. How do you deal with that chaos, when those returns come back?
Yeah, it is chaotic, and our sales channels are these big box stores, obviously Amazon, which we all sell on, and these things come back in the truckloads, and inevitably there will be parts missing, components missing from the return. But our concern is on the big dollar item, right? The Vitamix machine, the actual machine and the base is what we're really focused on. And if there's some small dollar items that are missing, it's not really affecting us so much, because they're not going to use any of these other components anywhere else. But some of the things that we're checking for sanitary reasons is we at Vitamix have the container, and that container, we actually replace every single container on the Vitamix. So there are serious allergen issues. The people that use our product, if they have peanut allergies, or if use it as a medical device, we want to make sure that they're getting a brand new container with everything. We also have a blade. That blade gets sanitized. We send it out for a chemical wash, and it comes back. And we will reuse the blade, but the actual container, we make sure that it is brand new in every single product. Some people out there, other brands may have their own sanitization standards. Ours are very, very high. So the quality of our product when we're selling our refurb, it is really almost like buying a new product. It goes through 17 quality inspection checks. We're doing all the electronic checks on there. It's the same checks that we do, an inspection that we do on our production lines, we do on our refurb line as well.
Now, the interesting thing is, I'm going to ask Vince to answer this question as well, but I'll start with you, David. When you look at that whole journey from someone, they initiate a return, to the packaging and returning it back and running it through the process you talked about, what is the nastiest component? I mean, I know that's kind of a tough word, but from a financial standpoint, from a logistics standpoint, can you provide some color on that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, these machines, a lot of them are used, right? And people aren't going to they're just going to put them back in a box and send in this container that who knows what they made. They may have made dog food with this, cat food, right? Anything that you can think of, they use a Vitamix for. And inevitably, if you put it in a box and it goes through and sits in a truck for a few days, there could be critters that get in there, right? So when that happens, we shut everything down, and that whole pallet gets inspected. We'll take everything apart, and it's a margin eroder.
Right.
That meets
So-
the nasty criteria.
That meets the nasty
Yeah, that wasn't
criteria.
nasty.
So any household appliance, right? When those things come back, doesn't matter if it's a Vitamix or name your brand, there has to be serious inspections that we go through in order to make sure that product is getting back out in a Class A manner.
And obviously, there's a brand impact to that because you do not want critters being associated with the.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a premium brand, right? You've seen us at all the big box stores. We're not a $50 price point. We're a $400 or $500 price point, sometimes more, depending on the retailer you go to and what features you want. But we want to make sure that those refurbs are just as good as the new.
So, Vince, let me flip that back to you. The nastiest part of the journey when someone returns something, starting from the beginning.
So think about the process, right? Totally different business than David. We're dealing with eyewear. We're dealing with the products that I'm wearing on my face today. So it's not the same complexity as far as touching foods, but we do have different manual processes throughout the journey, right? So I would say the quality inspection is pretty intense, right? So we want to make sure that whatever is coming back, that we're providing a very thorough quality inspection, understanding the different level of scratches, if there is any scratches, if there's any lenses that need to be replaced. So I would say that in our operation, that's, let's say, the most labor intensive piece.
Mm-hmm. Now, Fara, you know I was going to use the word AI. You can't have a conference today.
Returns intelligence.
Exactly. The whole returns intelligence piece. You and your team spent some time walking me through what ReturnPro does, and it really is an amazing tool from a really almost cradle to grave process standpoint when someone initiates a return. But AI, I believe, whether it's today or over the next couple of years, it could really be a kind of a secret weapon in dealing with all this returns chaos, this smarter routing, more return calls, refurbishment calls that can be handled in a lot quicker manner, faster resell, which at the end of the day goes right to the bottom line, and just boosting margins, which at the end of the day is the biggest piece of this. From your perspective, not even if it's available today, but we talked a little bit about it during the demo. How do you believe AI may play a role going down the path of how it may be really a great tool in terms of really mitigating returns?
Yeah, well, first we call it cradle to cradle, not cradle to grave, because we always love to find a second life for every item that comes through our doors. When we're talking about AI, I think, using AI for the sake of AI is not what we're trying to do. I think the people who are going to win when they're implementing AI solutions into their overall returns journey are going to be the ones that use it in a very purposeful and intelligent way. And the way that we think about it is segmenting that reverse life cycle into 3 different buckets: the pre-post purchase, the post-purchase, and then the physical handling of the products. So on the pre-purchase side, using things like virtual try-ons, which if you look at research, there's data that supports that retail sites that use virtual try-on technology have 30% higher conversion rates. We conducted a study recently, and 73% of consumers told us that if a e-commerce site uses a sizing or a fit technology to help them understand what the best fit is across different platforms or channels they shop on, they're 73% more likely to shop on that e-commerce site. So being thoughtful about how you apply AI in the pre-purchase. On the post-purchase side, I would say it's really critical to have dynamic return policies. So we call that sort of the trusted customer algorithm, where you're analyzing that customer's lifetime value and their return frequency and a bunch of different other factors that every retailer has their own algorithm to analyze what they want to offer. But being able to change those policies in a dynamic way to treat your best and most loyal customers one way and to protect your business and try to discourage any abusive return behavior. And then on the actual physical touching of the goods, where we would see AI being a really impactful tool would be on the disposition intelligence side. So being able to send products to their next life with the fewest touches and transportation dollars as possible. And being able to use disposition technology to analyze what the best path is to touch those products. Is it to refurbish the product? Are you just going to RTV it? Are you going to just recycle it and piece out the parts and try to improve your yield and other broken items? So being able to apply AI in all of those different use cases throughout the reverse life cycle, I think is going to be, probably the best way for retailers and other brands to implement that.
Well, and the truth of the matter is that from a customer loyalty standpoint, having a robust process that makes sense from a financial standpoint, because this is a bottom line type of question, that builds a level of loyalty with future customers that has a dollar value associated with that.
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on that, Vince?
I mean, AI, if you think about our products that we're launching today and kind of where our future is, it's AI smart glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we have Ray-Ban Metas that we just launched a couple of years ago. And so what does that mean from a returns perspective? That means instead of just having a pair of glasses that's going through the returns process, we have now diagnostics, we have battery charging, we have imaging. So it's kind of moving more into the consumer electronics returns model in our business. And I see that being really the future of where we're headed.
Well, and it's interesting from a wearables technology, as wearables become much more sensitive to technology, like the Ray-Ban glasses, which I've used, by the way, they're very, very cool. Very often, returns happen, especially some of the larger big box consumer electronics retailers, where the vast majority of those products are actually fully functional. There's nothing defective about them, but because the consumer or the user hasn't been able to get it work properly, it becomes a technical support issue, and all of a sudden you've got a pile of stuff that is completely fine, but it's left the customer in a kind of a disgruntled state because it's not working. So that obviously that part of the piece has to be comprehended into the process. David, what about on the Vitamix side? Thoughts on that?
So I agree with Fara. Implementing AI just to implement AI seems a little bit silly. This is so new to all of us, but evolving so fast. We're still learning at Vitamix, how are we going to use the technology?
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to use it for? And who are we going to partner with in order to implement some sort of AI, and what facet of our business that we're going to use it as. But it's so new and evolving so fast. We're very careful about any technology and implementing any technology just for the sake of implementing it.
Sure. Well, and to me, the interesting thing about AI is, and I would agree with you, we're very early in the process, frankly, from trying to understand what the potential of that might be. And AI is a buzzword, people use it. Let's go out for a cheeseburger with AI involvement. It's almost become trivialized, but I do think from an e-commerce standpoint, AI could play a role in terms of when someone's got, especially a company that has a lot of SKUs, and you have to want to make sure they're choosing a SKU or a product that has a preponderance that it's not going to be returned. And there are things that AI can help out with at that front end of that process. I think I see Farah nodding her head. Thoughts on that?
No.
Well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Let's talk about just some of the inefficiencies in reverse logistics, and I will start with you, Farah, on that. In terms that, if it's not handled the right way, there's a margin impact. How can retailers, and vis-a-vis what ReturnPro does, how can it help identify and fix those type of issues?
Yeah, I think, there's one of the biggest inefficiencies, I think, in our industry is just that it's really fragmented. When you look at, the different players in the space, there's a lot of different point solutions that address one part of that retail life cycle. But to really create value within a reverse supply chain, you really have to be able to understand from the pre-purchase all the way through to that item second shelf, be able to have visibility and be able to optimize your data and be able to feed that data from the end of the journey all the way back up to the beginning of the process so that retailers can make smarter purchasing decisions and understand who the key, abusers are of certain returns behavior. So I think that's like a huge inefficiency. And I think going back to the earlier discussion around AI, there's a huge role that AI can sort of play in that space in terms of pricing optimization, data optimization.